Eric Applewhite, Program Director, Greater Manchester Connect, Greater Manchester's Pan-GM information sharing organization. To me, information sharing is the key enabler for achieving really any devolved agenda, regardless of government system. The promise of devolution, I feel like, is the deconstruction of existing systems and the ability to recreate them, sometimes leveraging the power of locality in place, but sometimes looking within the overall place and bringing systems together. The truth is that you can't devolve a system or a program or serve others in the place that they live in the context of who they are unless you can provide all the components of data that make that possible. It's equally true that if you want any kind of insight across your system, that you need the ability to join up data. So I think of information sharing as creating the common language that enables devolved government to work. If you don't have that common language, I think most governments that undertake a devolved journey are going to struggle. I think in many ways our greatest challenge is our greatest enabler. We're already a proud organization that's greater than our component parts. We've been used to working together as a combined authority, both externally and inwardly, to achieve outcomes and improve the lives of our residents. So what that means is we have a path already for collaboration and a collaborative identity, which helps us. I think what's a challenge, though, is within our family, within our ecosystem, we have already a number of really amazing initiatives that are tackling information sharing. So the opportunities in the system to promote one thing and not the other, or to find the commonalities between them, really, I think, is probably our greatest challenge. So what makes us great, people being interested and aware of the same problem and wanting to tackle the problem of information sharing, creates our advantage, but really creates a challenge for us around which things do we promote, which things do we invest in, how do we support the power of localism in place and still join up our system to allow us to be and achieve the promises of devolved Manchester. So how does the Center for Excellence really help us? Why did we choose the center to be our partner? I think there are a few things. One is around brand and capability. So I would highlight that, and I would say you're at the center in a really interesting and unique way around the conversation of how to share data across government. You have really strong links into central government and into localities. You have communication channels to gather feedback for us, to provide us best practice and advice. And you also, I think, in many ways, create collaboration channels within ourselves and across other localities and into central government. So I think what you are makes you unique in terms of where you're placed in the United Kingdom around the question of information sharing. The other thing that I like is that you tell us what you really think. If you've ever heard the expression, if you want to do things differently, you actually have to change. I feel like in many of my conversations with the center, you've been unafraid to say to me, Eric, that's great, but is that really going to achieve GM Connect's outcomes and goals? Is that going to enable Devo? So you stick to your guns, and I really appreciate that about you. We need that if we're going to achieve the change. So some stories about what the real power and impact of this is going to be for our residents. I think for many of us, that's the reason we're in this. That's the reason we're doing this. So I think the kind of things that we can expect, first and foremost, is an opportunity for all of our residents, nearly 3 million people, to begin to engage with us and with themselves in a digital way, in a way that's unprecedented. And that's the way the world's moving. And I think one of the exciting things about Devo is the recognition that government can join the resident in that journey. And just as government helps citizens with a number of things, we should also be stepping up and helping them meet their digital self, get access to services when they want it. One of the more powerful compliments I've ever been given was, it's so great that you guys now allow me to apply for this service online and see my case information. Now I don't have to get a babysitter, take off work, and come and see you at a time that isn't convenient for me. I can now do all of that stuff from where I am at a place and time of my choosing. And the value of that to me as a human being and to my family is immeasurable. I have a really strong opinion that public service reform cannot happen without information sharing, not as designed. Essentially, we, I think, have recognized across our programs now that the ability to serve people better and serve them more efficiently within our own program is increasingly shrinking. We've gotten really, really good at finding that, and despite sometimes what people say about government, I think we're great at finding value and doing things better within our own programs. The buried treasure is essentially gone there. I think where the opportunities are for us are transition points, and whether it's from child to adult, whether it's across geography from this place to that, whether it's from one sort of care to another. That's really where ultimately the risk and expense in the system lies, and also the value to residents. So it's impossible for me to imagine a truly successful devolved information sharing organization that can't see its connection points achieving its goals. What's going to make or break successful information sharing in Greater Manchester? It's not the technology, I can tell you that. That'll be one of the easiest things that we have to do. For me, the key enabler really is culture change, and at the root of culture change is leadership. And one of the things that I think is really compelling and interesting about Greater Manchester is the commitment of leaders to do something differently in this moment. This is a once-in-a-generation opportunity to transform in terms of devolved government, and I can assure you that the leadership in Greater Manchester across health, across local authorities, across social care, across the community safety and justice domain understand what a moment this is and an opportunity. When you see really unique demonstrations of leadership, like combining in an unprecedented way a health and social care budget for an entire system of 3 million people almost, and when, like me, you constantly see governance arrangements and partnerships and people voting for the system instead of themselves, you start to realize that that leadership is working already. But one of the most important things we do is make sure that the message and voice of leadership pervades all the way to the end to sustain our change, or we won't make it. And I'm happy to say our leaders are committed to that. What role will GM Connect play in Manchester's devolved journey? The design of the program is very, very intentional. When you look across the United Kingdom, and I would say even globally, this is new ground, this level of information sharing, both what the United Kingdom and Greater Manchester are trying to do. There are imperfect successes globally, just a few to look at, but not very many. So we have tried to leverage some of those lessons, but really also think about what will work for this place, for Greater Manchester, in terms of our culture and our ways of working. GM Connect is intentionally designed to place its information sharing bets to the front. When you look around and you find most information sharing programs that have failed, typically those failures are blamed on technology. And although that may be an aspect of truth to that most times when you look at those programs, the real truth, if you look under the covers, is most often there are human challenges, problems of governance, problems of leadership and sponsorship, problems of being able to understand what benefits you expect to realize and whether you're realizing them, and most important, stakeholder management and coaching throughout the system that you're changing. The IT is very easy to blame. It just lies there. It doesn't fight back. So one of the things that we know in Greater Manchester, and we're going to do differently, is we're going to bet to the front. We're going to make our heavy investments in people and talent and cash resources at the front of the system in the beginning, knowing that certainly we do want to make technology investments to join up our system, but it only makes sense to do that if we work on questions of culture, questions of leadership, creating an information sharing, problem solving type ethos around finding an information sharing path instead of something that is perhaps too compliance heavy, full of too much inertia and myth, something that's really focused on, I suppose, remembering why we want to combine pieces of information and what benefit we hope to achieve, and then constantly coming back to that to find the path if there is one. So it's really those things that I think will make GM Connect different. Will help drive culture change, will help enable capability that not just for GM Connect, but our partner organizations can borrow when they have a particular need or have a skill gap that they can't fill on their own. And then certainly what we will do is create a common language of information sharing. So when we talk about a child in terms of exchanging data, we're going to mean the same thing. We're not going to mean different things, which is surprisingly easy to do. You wouldn't think it with data, but it's very easy when I send you information on a child and you send me information on a child to not have those things look anything alike at all. So we're going to fix that, and we need to achieve our goals. And while we do that, we're going to create friendlier and quicker ways of sharing information with one another. What's the problem? What's the value? What's the information sharing path? Let's crack on and do it. That's what GM Connect's going to enable across our system.